Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Mackenzie Kane, coming to you from the 2024 First Tee Tampa Bay Charity Gala. I'm joined here by two very special guests, former pro golfers Gary Koch and Mr. Nick Price. Now, thank you both so much for taking the time to speak with me this afternoon.
Well, it's a pleasure, Mackenzie. Great to see you back here in Tampa. You're one of our favorites from our First Tee program, so always good to see you, and very proud of all the good work you've been doing.
Well, I appreciate that. Now, I know in just a few moments you'll be speaking to a couple of First Tee students from middle school, high school. Now, I'm curious, what are some of the pieces of advice you plan on giving them about
Well, obviously, the best things we know the best about golf, and also, just what it's done for us and what it's given us in our lives and our careers, and, given us a gateway to places that I never thought would be open to me, and meeting some great people, presidents and royalty and that. So, it's been a great road, and it's a game that just has such a great, founding, the etiquette that you learn, and just the simple fact that you're aware and cognizant of the guy you're playing with or the gal you're playing with. So, and you treat the golf course with respect. And it's one of the games where, we're taught not to move or not to try and put other people off, where some of the other sports are a little different today. But, it's a game for a lifetime. And I think these youngsters in the First Tee program are obviously very lucky that they got the opportunity first off, but then they're making the most of it. So, just talk about the experiences that they're going through with golf and that. So, long-winded answer, sorry.
No, I honestly, those are sometimes the greatest answers. But this is a question I'd love to ask the both of you. What was the moment where you knew that this golf game is something you wanted to pursue professionally?
Professionally, it was probably actually after I had started college. It seemed like what happened with me, Mackenzie, was at each stage I kind of set new goals for myself. So when I started playing junior golf and having some success, then the goal was to get a college scholarship and play at a good university and try to get better. And then once I got to the University of Florida and started having some success at the college level, then I think the natural progression was the next goal was, I'd love to play on the PGA Tour. And fortunately that worked out.
I'd say so myself. What about you?
Yeah, and I sort of went through that progression as well, although I didn't go to college, but I had to do 18 months in the military back home, and got to do a lot of thinking around then. And when I was getting ready to finish, I'd sort of played well as a junior and done okay as an amateur, but really hadn't excelled like some of the guys. And I'd lost my father really young, so about a month before I finished the military, I said to my mom, I can't figure out what I'm going to do, and she said, well, why don't you just try golf, because you've got a talent, and give it a go for 2 or 3 years, and if it doesn't work out, you can always, if you'll be 23, 24 years old, you can get out and get go either to university or, a trade behind you. So that's what I did, and I was just lucky because I just kept going. I got better and better.
Can you tell me a little bit about the culture shift that you experienced coming as an international golfer?
Where I grew up was very British, English sort of traditions and culture. Both my parents were British, and coming over to America here was a lot different to the way, it's not huge differences, but there are differences. The way the language and the food's a little different and that, but other than that, we all love golf. So I was with golfers, so it was really easy to slip into that. But I'd played 4 or 5 years in Europe before I came over here, and I'd met some of the American guys on the European tour. Good friends as a junior with like David Abel, who's coming here tonight, and we became good friends. And I came over and played in a couple of junior events when I was 17. And made friends with Hal Sutton and a couple of other guys, so that's the great thing about golf. You create these friendships that last for life. I've known Gary since 1975. We were just talking about that, and I was a little younger at the time, but he was over in Britain playing the Walker Cup and the British Open, so I got to see him there. That was a long time ago now.
Well, we're getting long in the tooth, buddy.
Yeah.
Gosh, well, I'd love to hear a little bit more about this friendship, the fact that even from 1975, fast forwarding over, what is it?
Almost 50 years.
Almost 50 years
yeah.
now.
50 years. Well, Mackenzie, to me, that's not that uncommon in golf. It really isn't. And as Nick mentioned, it's one of the great things about the sport. You have this common thread running through, and as Nick also mentioned, you kind of are taught these things early on in your golfing career. And we see each other on a fairly regular basis. That helps too. I think we're seeing each other at tournaments or functions, and it's kind of easy to stay in touch, which is great. I do think too that Nick is one of the nicest guys to ever have played on the PGA Tour, and when you have someone like that, it's very easy to develop a friendship with, and it's very easy to continue a friendship with. And my friend here is, like I said, one of the best.
And how does that feel, having someone like
It's
Mr.
always-
Koch here say that?
It's always very humbling when people say that, but I had great upbringing. I think you are molded by the people around you when you're young, and also the people that you surround yourself with. And I was very lucky because I just had good people around me, and whether that was my selection or whether people warmed to me, I don't know what came first, but I was very lucky to have good people. And you learn a lot, especially from Gary's a little older than I am, and he's half a class ahead of me. So we had a lot of respect for the guys in his class from his era. And you watch, you learn. Raymond Floyd was a great example, dressed beautifully, always conducted himself very professionally. There were a lot of guys like that, Gary as well, and they became role models for us. And I think that's what the first tee is about. When you start looking at the things that Gary's doing, a lot of the other people are doing for first tee around the US, they're role models for the kids. And so what a great program. It's been great watching it grow, and kudos to Gary for being so involved in it.
Now, experienced golfers like yourselves, you're seen as mentors to those younger generations of golfers. So I'm curious, who were your biggest mentors growing up that truly had that impact on you?
That's a great question. I mentioned in the Payne Stewart Award ceremony that happened last August that Jim Colbert was a very big influence on me. Jim was a veteran on the tour, living here in Tampa when I started on the PGA Tour back in 1976. And he kind of took me under his wing a little bit. We played a lot of practice rounds together. I mean, you're brand new on the tour, you don't know where to go, you don't know where to stay or anything, and he kind of helped me along in those aspects, but he also taught me what it meant to be a true professional. That how you conducted yourself, as Nick mentioned, but not only that, the aspect of treating how you treat others. He had a very simple method. He said, just treat people the way you'd like to be treated. And that makes a lot of sense.
True.
Yeah, that's so true. And he also instilled in me the kind of tradition of the PGA Tour and giving back and trying to help others that were probably less fortunate. So I would say Jim Colbert was probably the biggest influence on me. Did you have somebody?
Yeah. Well, obviously when I was in Europe, there was Simon Hobday, who was from my country, but he
may not have been the best
He wasn't the
influence.
best influence, but he did teach me a lot. But there were guys, when I came over here, Jim Colbert was really good to me. Andy Bean, I played a lot of golf with Andy Bean over at Greenleaf, just up the road here. But as Gary's saying, sometimes one guy would latch onto you or help you, be your mentor, and other times it might be 3 or 4 people that would help you. Hal Sutton and I were really good friends, and what you do learn is how the PGA Tour works. That's the whole hardest thing when you go out, is you don't really understand the volunteers and how the whole, each chain works, or each cog works on the wheel, and so that was the thing that was, I think, really something that I learned so quickly over here. And we had all the volunteers here, which we never had in Europe and in other parts. So here you got these people who give up a week of their lives at the golf course 5 o'clock in the morning and leave at 7 o'clock in the evening. They don't get a dime, be paid a dime. They have to buy their own clothes, and the money that they generate by volunteering goes to their respective charities. So such a wonderful country for giving this. It really is. There's no other country in the world that is quite as giving as America. So I learned a lot very quickly and was very appreciative that I was a part of it.
Now, before I let the two of you go, I'd love to know that as former professional golfers, were there any lessons that you had learned or skills that you had developed that you wish you had learned a little earlier on that was maybe an aha moment for you?
Yeah, I can answer that one.
Okay,
I
I'll
wish
let
I'd
you
been
go.
a little less of a perfectionist. I think part of that came from my upbringing. My father was an engineer, and as an engineer, you have to make sure that everything is absolutely correct. I mean, when you're putting up a 10-story building, you can't have, a girder in the wrong place,
Exactly.
or the wrong kind of reinforcement, or the building will fall down. Well, they kind of instilled that in me, which in a lot of ways is a good thing. But I think when it comes to playing golf, sometimes it got in my way. I wish I'd learned that a little earlier in my career. I tended to be a little hard on myself. And certainly when I got to play a little bit on the Champions Tour, I had a lot different attitude, and it made it a lot more fun.
I think for me, I would have worked on my short game harder. I think that was one of the things. I always loved hitting the golf ball. I never got a driver until I was about 13. I'd been playing the game for 4 years, and when I got that first driver, I wore it out on the practice tee because I wanted to become, a really good driver. And like most people, we'd bypass the putting green or the chipping area and go straight to hitting balls. So I wish I'd done that, but I think one of the things that you learn is that perseverance and determination will outweigh a lot of talent. If you don't, what you lack in talent, you can make up for in hard work and diligence and doing the right thing, and not being a perfectionist, as Gary said, going out there and just trying to find out how Gary Koch works best, ticks best on the golf course, or how Nick Price does. We can't play golf like Jack Nicklaus. We can't certainly play golf like Tiger Woods or some of the young guys today. But we can play golf the way we know how very well, and that's what you learn, I think.
Now, young golfers like myself often ask people who have experience in the professional golf world, like the two of you, what advice you can give to them just to help them excel or grow their game farther. But I'd love to ask you, for those who may have never even thought that golf was a possibility for them, the people who would just want to get into it, how would you define this game as something that they can carry on for life?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, I think if you approach it in the right way, that it's something that you can play for a lifetime, which there aren't a lot of sports that are like that. There really aren't. So that would be one thing. I think the other is you never know when you're going to get better, and you never know when you're going to have your best round. I mean, it happens, and there's always that sense of anticipation that maybe today is going to be the day that I have my best day ever.
And there's so many facets to the game. I mean, the idiosyncrasies and the characteristics. You learn so much, and golfers are the greatest ones for reading a magazine and say, well, I found the secret. There's these, and you find these little things along the way that help you to get going and help you to learn and play better. But I think one of the things that is very difficult for youngsters today is access to golf courses. We've seen most of the inner city golf courses closing down, obviously because the real estate's so much more valuable. So I sort of encourage people to try and get youngsters involved in the game more, and whether it's in caddying or working in the cart barn or something in the summer, they'll get a taste of the game. And that's how most of us started, either by caddying or working at a golf club. So my advice to the youngsters, get out there, try and get involved in the game. It's a game for the future, but not only that, it leads to so many different paths and outcomes in your life. It's really, I've been blessed.
Well, Mr. Koch and Mr. Price, I just want to say thank you so much for your time, and more importantly, thank you for supporting the First Tee of Tampa Bay, an organization that has truly meant so much to me. And I wish you all the best.
Well done to you too, Mackenzie.
Thank you.
Thank you.